It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Forget what they teach you in school. This is real life. Not Wall Street, but Main Street. A real show on what's really involved with starting and running a business, with all the ups and downs. Our guests will answer your questions and provide you with valuable information. Stay tuned and join in the conversation. Call us at 305-541-2350. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.
Anyway, let's jump to Bitcoin. Wanda, do we have Kyle on the phone? Let's talk to Kyle and let's learn about Bitcoin. Let's learn about the future of I don't know if it's called currency, but hey, Kyle, you there?
Hey, Jack, I'm here.
Good.
Have me on.
Thanks for having us. Everyone, this is Kyle Kemper. Kyle is head of the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada, and I believe it's fair to say he is an expert in Bitcoin. I've spoken to him a few times, and he's just opened up my whole eyes in it. So, Kyle, why don't we start out? We have to break for a commercial in a few minutes, but why don't we start out and just tell everyone what Bitcoin is so we all have a basis. And then if it's all right with you, I have just a bunch of questions, and we can just start flowing the conversation and all learn from it because, like everything, this is changing our whole society, and I have a feeling in 10 years it's going to make a tremendous impact on us all.
Oh, I totally agree with you there, Jack. So Bitcoin is a digital currency. It's created and held electronically. Think of it like a digital cash. With it, nobody controls Bitcoin. There's no company behind it, and there are no backdoors. Bitcoins aren't printed like dollars or euros. They're awarded to the people and businesses who process transactions on the network. There's a finite supply of Bitcoin set at 21 million, and the monetary policy for it is fixed. So one of the major problems that Bitcoin solves is that it's a digital asset that cannot be duplicated. If you think of something like maybe an MP3 or a movie or a computer file, they can easily be copied. But with Bitcoin, you have a digital asset that cannot be duplicated. Many people believe, myself included, that Bitcoin will revolutionize money and finance the same way that the internet disrupted communications in general. So it's a very exciting time. It's still the early days. One of the illusions I draw is this is like, the internet of 1992. It's still pretty rugged, but the people who kind of understand it and see the opportunity there know that for one, it's here to stay, and two, it's going to have incredible impact on basically all parts of society.
I got it. And it's a worldwide currency, so it doesn't matter. There's no conversion rates or in other words, if I get a Bitcoin here and I happen to be on Australia or China or wherever I'm at, I could use it there, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Bitcoin knows no borders, no languages, no politics, no sexes, no religion, none of that. Okay. Bitcoin is just mass. It's a global digital currency.
Wait, before we start talking, he ended on the word, it doesn't know sexes. So I got to break with that. Let's take a commercial break, Kyle. I got to always end with something a little bit risque. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Stick with us, Kyle. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sticking with us. Welcome back. Kyle, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Jack.
Okay, good. So Bitcoin, I think you said before there was a flat number of them, and I forget the number you said that's out there. Did I hear correct?
Yeah, so the total supply is finite, and it's ultimately going to be 21 million Bitcoin. And right now, about 14 million thereabouts have been issued. Like,
who sets that? Like, who came up with that 21 million? Was it? Why isn't it 22 million? Or is there like a Bitcoin Alliance or the IMF? Or who sets that out of curiosity?
So it was set by the creator. In the very beginning, an individual or group identified themselves as an anonymous person called Satoshi Nakamoto, and they outlined the kind of the rules of the currency. And one of them was that the total supply is fixed at 21 million, but it's divisible. It's divisible to 8 decimal places below that, and the smallest unit is called a Satoshi. So even if Bitcoin goes to, say, $1 million a coin, you'll still be able to buy a cup of coffee with it.
Gotcha. And what changes? Does the price of that Bitcoin change on a daily basis?
Yes. So I mean, in the Bitcoin, when you have a Bitcoin, you have a Bitcoin. That doesn't change, but it's the amount it's worth against any other currency changes. Just the way gold changes, just the way currencies change against each other.
And people are, I think, are speculating or trading them, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. It's a trading network that's on 24/7. There's no holidays. There's no opening bells or closing bells.
There was an exchange. This is Todd, by the way. There was an exchange that failed, or there was fraud, or something happened. I guess like a year ago. What was that all about?
Yeah. So in order to buy and sell Bitcoin, you need to use kind of companies, and one of them was an exchange called MT Gox, based out of Japan, and they're like a bank. They're kind of like a bank, and you trusted them to hold your Bitcoins, and they were a company, and they went under, they went bankrupt, and they lost a bunch of people's money. So that wasn't a problem with Bitcoin. That was a problem with that company. Just in the same way, like if a bank engages in bad practices, or if a bank gets hacked, or the funds stolen, it's not the currency's fault; it's the bank's fault.
Right, but I mean, does Bitcoin get protected by like an FDIC kind of thing, like dollars would if the bank?
No, there's no. Again, that would be banks. FDIC is insuring the bank's funds. With an exchange, yes, they can go towards. There are a number of exchanges, and people will hold your Bitcoins for you, and they'll provide insurance, so they'll guarantee it. So there are ways to hold it, but imagine if you had cash. Imagine if you're just holding cash yourself, like as with Bitcoin, and if you lose your cash, or if it's stored in your house and it burns down, there's no insurance on that cash specifically.
So, but look, I don't want to. I would imagine as Bitcoin evolves, there'll be some sort of secure network or some type of insurance. So, because right now, I suspect, I don't want to say it's the infancy of it, and they have to work their way through that. A couple more of them will fail, and there'll be a revolution to.
Oh yeah, and we've learned great lessons from what happened in MT Gox. People are implementing new processes and procedures to make sure it never happens again, like that way. So similarly, like just the law, if someone takes off with a bunch of people's money, they should go to jail.
So why would a company or a person, because a lot of companies are going to it now, especially with the Greece situation. In fact, I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal the other day that NASDAQ is starting to experiment with it. So what's the advantage to an individual or a company to using Bitcoin as opposed to currency or something of that nature?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, NASDAQ is looking at the technology behind it to kind of record transactions, for all eternity. But other companies like, Dell and Microsoft and Overstock and Tiger Direct and Newegg, Expedia, and smaller restaurants and cafes and retailers are accepting it because it's got all sorts of values. For one thing, it's an instant transaction. So when you send money, you get the money, near instantly. Secondly, the transaction can't be reversed. So like with credit cards, there's chargebacks. So, you can think you have the money, and then after the fact, someone can take it away. With Bitcoin, when you send the money, you can't. There's nothing to reverse the transaction. The opposite party would have to actually send it back to you. All the transactions get recorded. Is another thing. So there's a proof of all transactions. It's incredibly efficient. This is one of the big things. Is the fees for it, whereas Visa and MasterCard are charging points on the transactions, a Bitcoin transaction costs 4 cents thereabouts to process, whether it's $1 or $1 million. It costs you 4 cents. So that's incredibly efficient. So there's huge cost savings there. And then lastly, it's just private. I mean, it's a lot of people buy things online. They use their credit cards, and they put their credit card information. They put all their personal information and their shipping information. And if that retailer's database gets hacked or something, all of a sudden you have all of your personal information, and you are at risk of identity theft or social engineering. So with Bitcoin, you have the opportunity to separate personal information from financial transaction, which is very important.
So if you hold a Bitcoin, what's the price of Bitcoin today, just for an example?
So the price of Bitcoin right now in U.S. dollars is about $277.
So if I would hold a Bitcoin and it's worth $277, I'm subject to the market fluctuations, correct? Sort of like gold or silver.
Yes, or U.S. dollar or Canadian dollar.
Yeah. I understand. But in other words, if I have dollars and put them in the bank, I get interest on it. If I have a Bitcoin, it could that $277 could be higher, or it could be lower.
Correct.
Gotcha. So you have to just keep that in mind. Is it more used by individuals or by companies?
I would say it's more used by individuals. Like right now, there's definitely a lot of kind of speculators and traders in it, but there's also people who are just looking for alternatives. I think with the financial crises that have taken place, and like you mentioned Greece. Greece is an excellent example of why individuals may want to secure some of their holdings in Bitcoin, because like with the current situation in Greece, people don't actually have access to their bank accounts. But with Bitcoin, if you are in control of your Bitcoin accounts, nobody can take them from you or apportion taxes off them. So there's clear advantage to it. With Bitcoin, you get to become your own bank.
Gotcha.
Is everybody ready for that? I don't think so, but I think the system will evolve, and in the near future, we will have Bitcoin banks, and we'll have the existing banks offering, like the way they allow you to hold gold in your Wells Fargo account. You could also hold some Bitcoin.
Can you own a portion of a Bitcoin?
Absolutely. So each Bitcoin is divisible to 8 decimal places. So you can hold there's no change in Bitcoin. The days of operating in full integers of Bitcoin, like 1 Bitcoin or 2 Bitcoin, like we don't need to think about that. And this is something that's been kind of challenging the whole industry, is because it's worth 277, and people are like, well, it's too expensive for me to buy a Bitcoin. So we're actually kind of like the community is kind of moving towards using the denomination of bits, which is there's 1 million bits in a Bitcoin. So like sending someone, let's say this cup of coffee costs 5,000 bits. It sounds like a lot more than just 0.003 Bitcoin, and it also is a little bit more easy to understand that way.
So in my idiot language, you can move it to pennies.
You can move it to much smaller than pennies, but yes. I
got you. Can't buy anything with it, but I understand. Gotcha. I understand.
The penny's more expensive than the value it holds.
I got you. Who sets the price? I guess it's the market sets the price of that $277, or how's that set on a daily basis or hourly basis, or how's that set?
It's set on a continuous basis of the market, of buyers meeting sellers, of people who are looking to buy it, meeting with people who are looking to sell it, and there's the equilibrium price.
So it's the free market.
Very pure market. It's
so the market,
very pure market.
The market right now is valued at approximately $6 billion or thereabouts. What happens?
Yeah, thereabouts.
What happens if it gets so popular that there are more transactions going on with Bitcoin than that can hold? Then
so the network, it's based on code. So as problems kind of present themselves, solutions will also be developed. And there's been a lot of stress testing going on the network. But I think to just pull it back a second, if say there's $6 billion, and say all of a sudden $1 billion worth of buy side pressure comes onto the market, well, there just simply isn't enough at 277 to buy that. So the price would very quickly start running up. And I think. Right. It's just a matter of buy me sell, and when you have a fixed supply and a variable demand, as demand increases, the price is going to increase, and that's why, based on the incredible utility of the currency, as more and more people become aware of how disruptful and impactful this programmable money has on all sectors of society, there'll be a rush towards it, which should lead to a much higher Bitcoin price.
What's the risk for hacking? I mean, if the U.S. government can be hacked like it was recently, I mean, what kind of risk is there that Bitcoin can be hacked?
Great question. So the Bitcoin protocol itself is based on like absolute top grade cryptography. Now it has never been hacked, and it quite likely will never be hacked. But the companies that operate on top of it, like, the exchange, like they were talking about Mt. Gox in Japan, like, they got hacked. Exchanges get hacked all the time, and they have the Bitcoin stolen. It's much easier for people to target the companies that operate and try and steal keys for Bitcoin, as opposed to trying to hack Bitcoin itself. So that's where the real risk is in the companies being compromised and losing Bitcoins that they're holding on behalf of other people.
Is it something that's more of because it sounds fun. Like I'm going to ask you soon, like how does an individual get set up with this, and how does a merchant get set up with this? But is it something, and I'll ask you this question, then we have to break for a commercial, but answer this question if you would. Is it something that's more like a fad thing, or something that's like a serious business thing at this point? And I realize it sounds like it's going to evolve greatly in time, but at this point, is it more of just a cool thing to do? Like I'm paying in Bitcoin? Sounds like a great pickup line. And by the way,
no, I think it's very serious. I think in the very beginning it was kind of fun, but ultimately what it's challenging is the central banking system that has brought us, to our knees.
I'm actually going to ask you about that when we get back, how the government feels. We need to take a hard traffic break. Stick with us, Kyle, and stick with us, all the great people listening. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Drive safe, everybody.
Nothing lascivious to lead us to our break this time?
I don't know. Nothing. I got to keep it clean. If not, my wife's going to yell at me.